plan for Thursday? Wednesday, Thursday. I talked to him on Saturday.
Cool guy.
He said he may not even like worry about stream this first week, but I said we're gonna still try to get it set up for him.
For us,
Yeah. That's what Brian said. Next week, go time. Said Monday and Tuesday, press the buttons.
Chief. Good morning, sir. How you doing? Good morning. Happy New Year. 4.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. The New Truth Ministries family and friends. Welcome to this Tuesday morning Deeper Dive Live. We are live and locked in the building with the livest live audience, and all the Tampa Bay staff is in the building. We want to welcome you to the Deeper Dive, share it with those you love. The Deeper Dive gives us the opportunity to attend to the things that God has said to us, as we've determined to be people who are most blessed people indeed. Pastor Brian is here in the building with us. Good morning, Pastor Brian.
What's happening, Pastor?
Good to see you. Good to see you. So here we are, week 3, as we set out this year, this infinitely more year, right? We got the message. We have it. It's available. It's recorded. We can go back and refer to all 3 messages. The rewards of reverence. Now is the time. Walk worthy of. Here's the first question. I heard somebody say the call. Walk worthy of the call. Walk worthy of your call. It's a difference, and it matters, doesn't it?
It matters.
Let's start by talking about why it matters. The call, walk worthy of the call, which is more general type, but walk worthy of your call. Why does that distinction matter?
Yeah, because the distinction matters because that is living in the understanding of we're a new creation. Mm-hmm. And we even second service did a little bit more deeper dive on what that means. Mm-hmm. But one of the simple ways is to say, like, hey, as a new creation, I'm acknowledging the Holy Spirit's administration of the heart of God inside of me.
That's good.
Like, when you're saying, hey, I'm a new creation, you're saying, hey, I acknowledge that the Spirit of God is living on the inside of me. But He's not just there, He's administrating to me what is good and pleasing and acceptable to God.
Yeah.
And that Holy Spirit is there as, I'm gonna use this word, a customization,
right?
To who you are and your calling.
That's good. So I know it's very important that we pick that up. That it's very customized to what God is calling you to do, and I see that it sounds like I'll say it like this, like the work for us. Like the most important thing that we can do is recognize it.
Right. I want to read this, right?
Okay.
Oh man, yeah, you were going a good way, but this just popped up to me because when we say your calling, right? Ephesians 4:20, but that isn't what you learned about Christ. They didn't say that isn't what we learned. That isn't what you learned.
That's good.
And I love the moment when Jesus spoke to his disciples and he was telling them, to whom much is given, much is required. Like he was saying, no, like they didn't know. And for what they knew, what they understood, they will be held accountable. You were exposed to much more. And for what you were exposed to, you will be held accountable. I'm saying that because all of those are personal, customized. Like, but what did you learn? What do you know? Live worthy of your calling. Like it's that's the new creation. And I said this during second service because I hear a lot of people throw out those terms like they're just being religious. Well, let me help you out. Anytime you go to we and not you, you're being religious. Because relationship says is you and God.
I think you said that too fast.
So it's not.
Hold on. I think you said that part too fast. I want to make sure that they got it. Whenever you go from we, that's what you said?
Yeah.
To you, now you're being religious.
No. Whenever you go from you to we.
Got it.
You're being religious.
Got it.
Like religion says, I'm taking out the relationship factor. I'm taking out the Holy Spirit effect. Religion says I'm taking away every personal aspect of what me and God share, and I'm going to default for what is generally accepted.
Got it.
Like that is religion. Religion is to say, like, beyond what is happening personally with me, I could care less. I'm just going to live according to the code.
Got it.
And it's like, no, what's your code? That's relationship. Yeah. Like what is God? Because as a new creation, we now have a relationship with God. Man, I be thinking of so many things I'm like currently studying. And this is amazing. No, I'm not going to do it. Oh, man, that's too deep. But I shouldn't say it's too deep.
Go. Okay.
Because this is a deeper dive, but it's too deep in another subject. And so I would say it, right? When we look at Moses and we look at Joshua, and I just was studying when he was commissioned, right? We've been looking at Isaiah and when he was commissioned. One thing that we like skirted over that God had me stop on, this is just yesterday, I was just looking at it, was God then spoke to Joshua and said, as I was with Moses, I will be with you. Like we skirted over the fact that God spoke to Joshua. Like our new creation skips over the fact that God didn't just speak to everybody in that time. Like, so as a new creation, we're reading it thinking that, oh, he spoke to him and took that casually. No, God spoke to Joshua in that dispensation. That was evidence that he was next to be called. The fact that God spoke to you was sign that you were to lead people, because God didn't just talk to everybody.
That's good. Like
he spoke through his vessels, through his appointed people. But that was religious in collection. But now that there's relationship, and now we have to acknowledge as new creation that God talks and lives within all of us. That's brand new. And just as much of that was a sign of God's like approval of him to be the next to lead, like we have to see God's voice inside of us as approval for who we are. Like that's crazy.
I'm laughing right now because we had a natural just inclination to do that though, right? Because even as kids, like mama told you to do X, Y, Z, but what we went and told everybody, like, y'all got to clean up the house. And it's like, no, mama told you to clean up the house.
Mama told you.
Right.
And what I can tell you, and we've been talking about growing spiritually, that part of your living as you grow becomes increasingly, increasingly more important. I'm just,
Let's see if this helps.
This is so real that I can say it. I'm trying to figure out a way to say something that literally happened with me today, like this morning, heading here, and I asked the question, and the question was, it's a group thing. I'm doing a group thing, but I definitely recognize that even amongst this group, and that's what I'm saying, as you're growing, as you're maturing, that I play a role in a leadership capacity. But we've been approaching this as a group. And so I was asking the group a question, soliciting participation and collaboration. But it came down to the point to where I said, listen, if y'all are asking me to make the decision, I can. Like everybody was kind of passing on making the decision. And I'm saying that to say that you, as you grow and mature, becomes greater and greater of a ownership you have to take. Because as you're leading people and the more people who are following you, the less people really understand where you're going. There's certain, man, God said this to me like late last year, because I love collaboration and I love to work with people. But then I was starting to share things that I was interpreting that, am I not saying it right? And I'm not communicating it the right way. I was just doing all the things you do as a leader. And finally God told me, no, what I said to you was so unique, no one can understand it. Like what you were actually saying is very difficult to comprehend. You are the only one that heard that. But I love collaborative work, and I know that, man, I'm not called to do this alone.
Got it.
So I'm trying to share different levels of the vision. But you got to understand what was like literally said to you that only you comprehend based on the relationship you have with God. Like you're saying things that need so many intricate details to be able to follow. Yeah. Check this out. I'm gonna do an example I did yesterday, right? I need you to look at me, Pastor Lamar. Check this out.
Locked in. Got it.
You see what you just did, right?
Yeah.
Did you know, or did you think about catching that before you caught it?
No.
No, you didn't, right? You're instinctively, you caught it. Why did you instinctively catch it? Because prior to me throwing it, you already knew you could catch things. Like you already, your instincts cause the reaction based upon how you previously have lived.
Yeah. Right.
What I'm saying is, I could have threw that at somebody who doesn't have the confidence to catch things based on previously. And although they could catch a phone or they could catch this thing, their previous experience, they may have ducked. They may have pushed it away. Listen, if you didn't know me, you may have not even caught it because you didn't know if I threw something that could be dangerous. Right? Like, so it took relationship. There's so many things that we instinctively do based upon who we've been that it's impossible to live a life by just a template because you have been living with God and shared personal experiences with God.
What's the scripture say? You are, I know one version says you're fearfully and wonderfully made, but I think another one says, like, he uses some big college word. I'm looking at our master's degree person over here.
Wow.
But he just talks about how you've been, like, God's taking his time on you. I think he said.
Yeah.
That was the
and
thing
so
in
it's
a
like,
message.
I know we're still triggering on that you. I mean, I'm just trying to give more credence to it. There are things that you instinctively do based upon your whole life and living up to this point that when God's talking to you, you have to realize how awesome that moment is. You have to realize how customized that moment is to who you are, your life experiences, who your parents are, or whether or not you had a good or bad relationship with your parents, who your kids are, who like God takes all those things into consideration when he's talking to you. And that's the beauty of having a relationship. That's the beauty of being a new creation is that now I have this God inside of me who's been with me and who is customizing things according to my calling for what he wants to do. Like, I don't have to live a religious life, which is, what is a religious life? It doesn't matter who you are, where you've been, what you've done, what you've seen, your hurts, your traumas. It doesn't, none of that matters because this is the code.
Got it.
Like whether or not, like
good.
Religion says, change your outfit because you're not dressed appropriately. Relationship says, man, do you even have the clothes I'm asking you to change into? Religion says, and then you find out that the person was wearing the only thing they had to wear to church.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And now you realize, man, I gave them rules without even knowing them.
Right.
And that caused a disconnect. That caused there to be a stumbling block where God wanted there to be a relationship. Why? Because I never knew you. Mm-hmm. But I started giving you instructions as though you
like
without taking you into consideration.
Exactly. Like it did.
Right.
Matter.
Like, and no one likes that.
Right.
You know, like no one likes that. And I thank God that God realized that if he was going to have this incredible relationship with us, that he had to establish a new and better way. Mm-hmm. Like that if we were truly going to be able to coexist with him, that he had to create a way that even in our failings and our shortcomings, we could exist with him. Mm-hmm. And so God takes all those things into consideration. Like, man, there's certain things that and I want people to understand what I'm saying. Like, there's certain things that based on my calling, I can't do that based on your calling. You maybe can do. Mm-hmm. I said this before, right? There's certain things that are permissible, but not everything is profitable. Right. Paul says, man, there's things that are beneficial, but you know, just because they're not sinful doesn't mean that it's not profitable for you. There's like he was saying, like, man, I become all things to all men so that I can win some. He was saying, like, man, there's things that it's not a matter of right or wrong no more. It's a matter of what has God called you to do. Like you that was the old way. The old way is it right or is it wrong? No, that's religion. Religion asks if it's right or wrong. Relationship says, is this profitable for what God has called you to do?
That's good.
Right. Like, and that's where if you live by religion, you exist in a gray area. Yeah. And people play it. Like I found people that love actually when people say, man, like they love religion because it gives them room to do what they want to do when they want to do it. Yeah. Right. But when it's like, no, but what has God called you to do? And it goes beyond religion and it's not about right or wrong, but what is profitable for your calling. Now there's a different standard. Yeah. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things that aren't profitable for your calling, you know, and it's not a matter of right or wrong. Yeah.
I can see how that is much more honoring to the relationship and what God is doing or has done in your life, what God has said to you, what he's shown you. Like living like that is much more honorable to what he's done for you.
Yes. You know, that's why I love so many of Paul. Like, if you look at Paul, so many times he says, in honor of all of that, in light of all of that, because of all of this.
Therefore.
All of these words are saying, man, when I think about all that God has done, it causes a response. Yeah. And that's what you were just saying. Like, when I think about how intricate God is with what he's telling me based upon who I am and where I am, why would I respond to him in a template way? Yeah. Like, no, like I'm going to respond in accordance. Like even if everyone's going right, if you tell me to go left, I'm gonna go left. Because man, you're being just that personal with me. And in response of you being that personal with me, I'm not gonna follow a crowd. Right. Like why would I mean,
dismiss this relationship in order to follow the crowd.
But I've seen people nowadays, and that's why we're here where we are, that say, oh, even though they'll take the parts of like the customizations, like be like, oh, like to kind of will their own way. Yeah. And so, but then when the customization speaks against what they are wanting to do, then they'll go with the crowd. Right. Like it'll be like, hey man, so you know, I'll use this for example, right? It's that response that says, but we were all there. What you mean you were all there? A couple of minutes ago, you was telling me what God is telling you to do. And you were saying, like, I was saying, hey, man, I think we should go soul winning. And you told me that's not what God told me to do. Now I'm like, man, you went to that concert? Yeah, we all went to that concert. Wait, why is there an all now and a you over there? Yeah. Like you're like, why all of a sudden when you're doing something that's not living up to your calling, you say it's what we were doing. But then when it's time for demand to be put on your calling, you're like, that's not what God told me to do. You went from a me to a we, to from a you to a us. You do realize you're living a great life, right? Like it's either it's either you and God or it's us and God. But understand, if you're saying it's us, that's religious. I know I'm saying a whole lot right now.
That's good. Well, maybe this will give us opportunity to unpack parts of that a little bit. Before we transition into, I think I may ask you something that may be more technical to just the message series as we move through. But before that, what I hear you saying is really almost another way of saying that we got to attend to what God has said to us. Right. Many times I heard we use the word accountable, responsible, ownership. All of those kind of live in the same place. Are there any other like synonyms or ways that we can talk about being responsible for what it is that God gave you? You're accountable to it, responsible for it, take ownership of it.
Honestly, I think the word God is trying to get us to is you're appreciative. It's like we have to work through accountable, responsible, because unfortunately, we respond more to man, this is so big. I'm about to say something that's so big, right? Unfortunately, many of us, because of how, and that's what I'm saying, like, this is where it comes down to you. We're shaped in environments where punishment was used to move us forward, that we don't know how to respond well to encouragement.
Right.
You were raised in a house where it's like, if you don't, like, your literal mom or dad or whoever was there with you, the way they got you to do things you didn't want to do was to punish you or to throw out a threat. Unfortunately, that conditioned you to only respond like once a threat is given. Like you weren't raised in an environment that showed you that I could love you into a better person. You weren't raised that way. Then you meet a God who wants to love you into a better person. And that's what I mean. This is why the relationship is so important. And now he has to work through all the trauma and the drama that you had because you were raised in an environment that threatened you into a better person. But now God's not trying to threaten you into a better person. He's trying to love you into a better person. And you don't even know how to respond to someone saying, because I love you, I'm asking you to do right. You're like, for some reason, I don't have a response to that. Well, that's because you were raised in an environment that always threatened you into right. Like if the belt wasn't cracking, if threats weren't flying, if punishment wasn't on the table, you didn't respond. Like, man, it's something that me and Rashida, like, we're very mindful of when it comes to even raising Amber, I'll use this as an example, right? I played football coming up. And I'll never forget, I was at a football practice and the coach started yelling. And I immediately took off my helmet, took off my shoulder pads, and just went and sat on the sideline. The coach, my dad showed up, and the coach was like, man, Brian ain't been listening today. And he was like, well, what happened? He was like, I was trying to tell him what to do. He was like, my dad literally asked him, how did you tell him? And he was like, man, like, I just was telling them together, like, to do a thing. And then my dad came to me, Brian, what happened? I said, he yelled at me. And he's, oh. And he went back to the coach. He says, I don't know if you know this, but we've raised Brian, and we told him that when people are yelling, it's because they don't have enough respect and control over the environment to speak peacefully. He sees yelling as a sign of disrespect, not a way to gain respect. He was like, he went over there because he doesn't respect you no more as his coach. Like that's
Right.
not. So I know all the other kids responded well to your yelling, but my son was raised in an environment where that's a lack of control. Matter of fact, my son was raised to say the reason why people cuss is because they don't have a good vocabulary.
Right.
And so when you started cussing and yelling, he just thought, man, not only does he not have control of his environment, but he's not even learned enough to speak to us in a way to get us. He doesn't respond to that.
Yeah. Right.
And the coach realized, like, man, I'm gonna have to take a different approach with that one. And as amazing as that is, like, that's like how God has to deal with a lot of us. You know, unfortunately, you know, I shouldn't say unfortunate. That's the beauty of why you came to God. You came to God and you gave your life to Christ because a lot of us weren't raised the right way, and we weren't raised by parents that were always doing and following what God told us to do. And regardless of all of that, God's like, you're still my child, and I'm going to take responsibility for you still becoming everything I designed you to be.
Right.
Even though you were programmed that way, I know how to reconstruct all of that so that you can be my child. Like it's a beautiful process. But I'm just trying to answer the question too. Like, yeah, so we're starting off with words, but oh man, it's so beautiful, right? But that's the problem. That's religion again, right? Like, people who love religion, I found out that religious people are also people that grew up in environments where you have to threaten people to get involved.